Wood's got round the back, and Richie Wood has done it again! The magic man has come up with another trick! Well, here's a chance to seal it! It's done! It's Georgie Kelly! Rotherham United's pathway back to the Championship is opening up!
Hello, everybody. Welcome again to New York Talk. This is the Rotherham United podcast. Thank you very much for being with us as we attempt to go through another defeat, potentially with a therapy for us all. You know, so we can all moan about it together, about how bad it was against Huddersfield, and dread together what it's going to be like on New Year's Day at Millwall. Yeah, I'm not convinced it'll get better, but we'll see. And we are going to sprinkle some positivity. We're going to go through our sort of moments of the year, obviously at the end of the year now. So we're going to go through best Rotherham moments. There's probably a couple we can pick from. And we've got a couple of favourite podcast moments from the last 12 months, which will hopefully give us all a good chuckle. Mick's with us. How are you doing, Michael?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Thank you very much. You?
Yes, I'm okay. Until we start talking about Rotherham United, I'm pretty good. And then I start thinking about Rotherham United, and then my mood just dips. Danny, how are you?
I'm going to echo that, Matt, to be honest. I'm not counting that as visiting the John Smith Stadium because there was no football played by us there, to be honest.
Yeah. Really, really bad night nobody wants to play on a Thursday anyway, but we made it even worse. We'll go through that in due course. In the comments, YouTube viewers are with us. This evening, gentlemen, yes, that was bad, and he fears for us. Poundwide UK says, evening, chaps. No game yesterday as the players forgot to turn up. S64 Miller, Kim Hayward, Ariel Astro, Sean Green are with us. Let's start with a burst of positivity. We've got our favourite podcast moments of the year. We're going to start with what Danny said was his. I'm going to play it because it's funny, and then you want you to see if you remember the game. This was post-match. Here we go.
Do you want me to try the burger on camera live right now?
I do. I am intrigued on the chicken burger.
Right.
So
right, here we go.
This is not what Mick signed up for.
New York Talk exclusive. Right, here we go.
I knew this episode was going to be out there, but I'm happy it took this turn.
Well, we're incredibly professional, aren't we, on this podcast? Anybody tuning in for the first time, this is not usually what happens. I mean, to be fair, we are usually discussing a victory, a win, but
not food.
I mean, it's not bad. It's a bit like a less crispy version of a Chicken Legend, with a bit more like chicken to it.
What would you get out of 10?
I'd give it a 6, maybe, out of 10. 6 out of 10. I mean, if you're hungry and you're a little bit drunk like I am, it's a good, like, stock-up meal. You know what I mean? The life of a uni student who were on his placement at the time. Brilliant.
One of the reasons we don't do podcasts drunk very often. Mick, what game was that?
That was obviously the win against the Pigs.
Was.
Obviously.
I listened to it. I re-listened to it, and I could have left about 5 minutes in, have a bit of a preamble, and a couple of minutes after. But I thought shortening it down to a minute or so was good enough. Yeah, very good, Danny. That win against Wednesday was a special day, so try with chicken burger.
Yeah, they don't do it anymore as well. I think I don't know why. They might have seen me and gone, "Oh no." But yeah, that is the problem with early kickoffs, especially when it's a local derby, because if it's an early kickoff, you've got the rest of the day to get absolutely sauced if you win. And case in point, that's what happened. Good grief. I think as well, I had a carvery at Kimmy Park as well before.
That was in the podcast as well.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, if you can't go on a podcast drunk after beating Wednesday, when can you?
True.
Fair comment.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have another one later on. Let's go down to the sort of serious business of the John Smith Stadium. 2-0 defeat to Huddersfield Town. I think we're bottom of the league before the game started. It's another one of those games, Mick. I think this is 4 games in a row. I said before we started recording, Mick, we could just copy and paste our last episode from 3 days ago, whatever it was. and we were saying pretty much the same sort of things, except this time against Huddersfield, there is not a single positive. Against Stoke, you could say this was a bit better, that happened, X, Y, and Z. I can't think, other than Ollie Rathbone running around quite a lot and working hard, I can't think of a single positive to come out of that performance.
I like to try and be positive. I like to try and pick something if I possibly can. And the only positive thing I can pick out of last night was final whistle. It meant I could stop watching it. It's awful. And it's so depressing. I sat and thought about it afterwards, and I think about the conversations we had after some of those earlier games in the season and the position that we put ourselves in, the position that the ability of the players within this squad put us in, nothing else. And now, and then we see 3 or 4 performances on the trot like that. It's depressing. It really is. And hugely, hugely disappointing. I'll be honest. I can't.
I remember after Bristol City game, I think you on the podcast said something along the lines of, "I'm not worried because after the Bristol City game, we're not going to play like that again."
Yeah.
And then 3 games in a row, it's a surprise, isn't it? Because I'm not saying we were electric before the break, but we were good at times. I know we had issues, but we were decent. We put effort in. We ran around, did some parts really, really well. It's the opposite, Danny. Everything's changed. Aaron Astro says the body language of the players is completely different now. Yeah, everything's different. It shouldn't be that different, I don't think.
No, I don't think it should. It might be because January is lingering and, new manager and nobody's safe, this, that and other. But it's like after Huddersfield game, there's dejected and then there was our players, because I think, who came over, there was Cohen, Victor, and I can't remember who else came over, but they came over and they actually apologised to the fans. I saw Cohen Bramwell hold his hands up in an apology. And yeah, it's good to get that sort of apology from the players because at least they know they are not playing well. But at the same time, it's like, don't come over and apologise, just play better. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's just frustrating because, I have faith in Matt Taylor and what he's trying to do, but it's just frustrating to watch when it is legit turning into square pegs in round holes. And it's just frustrating. And I think that's what a lot of it is with the fans. It's just pure frustration and they just target whoever they can, whether that's going for players themselves, the manager who's been here 3 months, so I don't think it's him. Or whether it's going for the board. I think it's just letting out frustration wherever we can. But yeah, just going to say it's a huge January that's coming up now. It is huge because if that goes belly up, then oh dear.
Well, it doesn't need to be though, does it? And this is the frustrating thing about it. It doesn't need to be a huge January. It wouldn't have to be a huge January if we played the way that the players are capable of playing. And I have to be honest, I'm not going to slag off the manager. I'm not going to slag off anybody particularly, but we played it a particular way at the beginning of this season and it got us well up the league. And had we continued in that vein, we would have been comfortably top half of this division. And I'm, in my opinion, it is only my opinion, the quality within this squad is more than good enough for a top half finish in this league because the league is crap. It is garbage.
It is.
And we've played the 2 best teams away from home so far this season and given them a hell of a game both times. Beat Sheffield United, probably, arguably, could have beaten Burnley, probably should have had a draw out that game, and deservedly so. But then we've had a break. The breaks come in, and we've talked about the new manager wanting to impose, having 4 weeks to impose his style of play on the team. We've come back, and we've been dreadful. And we've been dreadful, in my view, tactically. We've been awful, and that is the problem. It's nothing to do with, I don't think, necessarily the commitment to the players, although I would say that the players clearly, as has been mentioned in the comments there, the body language says it all. They're clearly not buying into this these tactics? Obviously not. There were a couple of times I saw Connor Washington last night just throwing his hands up in the air because he's getting no support whatsoever because we're so deep when we're out of possession. It's just, I'm sorry, but in my view, this is all about the tactics that we're employing, and they are not good enough, not acceptable. That's my view.
We'll come on to them. Just one thing, Danny, I want to tick it off. Matt Tiller at the end didn't come over to the fans. I don't like that, to be honest with you. I think he should be coming over. Win, lose or draw, all the players and the managers should be coming over and applaud the fans. The fans are the only ones that come out with any credit last night. Sell out on a Thursday night in between Christmas and New Year. They're the only ones that come out with credit, and I don't like that. It may have just slipped his mind because he's frustrated. But he's got to come over for me.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree there, to be fair. I mean, I saw an exchange on Twitter that Ron fan was having with an Exeter fan. And I think it was the same with Exeter as well. When he knows they've been poor, he just gets out there and goes to the dressing room to either sort it out or do whatever. But he did come over when we beat Sheffield United because it was a special moment. But yeah, I agree. I think after a performance like that, where I think the whole of Huddersfield could have seen how badly we played against them. Yeah. And if I'm being honest, I actually wanted Taylor to come over because I was going to bellow for him to make the players walk home after that. But yeah, he didn't come out and he went straight down the tunnel, which, yeah, like you said, could have just been pure frustration and just wanting to get in there and basically get them told. Or it might be his thing if we've not played exactly how he wants, which, if that's the case, it's each to their own. But yeah, I agree with you, Matt. You should be coming over and applauding the fans because we spend our money to go and watch them. You know, and we've got 1,800 fans still more or less there after a shocking performance. You know, you still come over and at least acknowledge them. You know, but yeah, I agree with you there.
And I don't think this is going to happen. But I remember Farrell Stubbs doing that against Barnsley was the beginning of his end. Him not acknowledging the fans and ignoring. I don't think Matt Taylor's going to go down that route. I've suspected more, but I'm just pointing out that that's not. I don't think we should be doing that. Eric Astro, stronger point, discussed he didn't come over with the fans. Like I say, says he's no more away games for him. He's absolutely good. Talk about tactics, Mick, because we've talked about it being passing. He wants to keep possession a little bit more. If you watched that game last night, you couldn't tell what the plan was. There was no discernible plan. We weren't very good at the ball. We didn't really move the ball from left to right at any time well. We didn't defend solidly. We obviously don't press that. We don't do that anymore. That's the thing. I don't really get what the plan was against Huddersfield. I could see it against Stoke. I could see parts of what we're trying to do. It just looked like a mishmash of nothing, to be honest with you. I didn't get it.
No, I mean, there were a few periods where we kept the ball quite well, particularly in the first 5 or 10 minutes. We did keep it quite well, but there's no real forward momentum. Had we had some of that, then it might have made it a different game. But the issues for me are more when we're out of possession. We're just dropping deeper and deeper and deeper, and just so passive. The issue with it is, in my view, football's all about momentum, you know. And we spent first 5 or 10 minutes having some good bits of possession, knocking ball about well, getting it down channels or getting it out wide. But then, as soon as we lose the ball, we're sitting back and we're handing the momentum to the opposition. And at this level, no matter whether they're bottom of the league or otherwise, if you hand the momentum to a team, you're straight away on the back foot. And if you are lucky enough to get the ball back, you've then got to build it again. So the game just gets suffocated. The way we were playing previously with the very same players, we was pressing high with high energy. As soon as you get the ball back, you've already got the momentum because of the way that you're pushing forward. You can still play the possession-based football when you've got the ball. It's out of possession that's the issue for me. It's awful. The first goal, I can't. I mean, Dan Barlasser, Jamie McCart. I don't know how much space they wanted to give him. It was ridiculous. They're not within. If their arms had been double the length, they wouldn't have been in touching distance of him. You know what I mean? It's not good enough. This is championship football, and that for me is under 13s, under 12s defending, allowing players to come at you, allowing teams the momentum to push you back to the edge of your 18-yard box, and then not get in their faces, not get tight to them, allowing them the space to get a cross in, to get a shot in. I find it blows my mind. It absolutely blows my mind. That part of it, allowing them to get into that position, is a tactical issue. That's a managerial issue. Whatever it is that they're trying to teach these players to do, or the way that they're trying to teach them to get them to play, that causes that problem. And then what that then appears to have sapped all the confidence and footballing knowledge out of the players from a defensive point of view, because we're not getting tight to players. We're allowing them space at edge of box. It's incredible. It really is. It's incredible that we can go from where we were at the beginning of this season. And I know people said, there's somebody mentioned in the comments, the freak results. They weren't freak results because we were doing it game after game. Yeah, we lost a few, but we were in every single game. We're not in any of these games. Since the international break, we have not been in the game. Even though we were up in the league twice against Stoke, we were never really in the game.
No. Because they were bad. If they were okay, if they had a striker like, I don't rate Jordan Rhodes anymore, but if they had Jordan Rhodes, Stoke could have won because he could put one back in there.
Let's be fair, that Stoke game's a bit of an anomaly in this particular run, because Stoke weren't in game either. You know what I mean? There was nobody in that game. And the point the only other point, I'm sorry, I'm hogging it, but the only reason that Huddersfield got into the game yesterday is because we said, come on, welcome in. Come on, in you come. We let them in it. Because they were absolutely dire for that first 10 minutes. They were dreadful.
But then they ended up being a better team.
Because they did, because we basically handed them a barrel full of confidence and said, "Here, lads, off you go."
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't understand why this has happened. I genuinely don't. And we can all speculate, can't we? But it's terrible.
YouTuber says, Mick, correct, well done. Glove Action says, agree with Mick, we don't get in their faces enough when we're defending and off the ball, attacking players, don't make enough support runs or even support each other in general. Poundbad UK says, warning that Mick went on for a bit. Mick went on for a bit.
Sorry.
Mark Gamble says, the style of play is inexcusable. On the style of play, Danny, and this is a thing with certain clubs have certain ways of playing. Go to Bournemouth are a football playing team. That's what they do. If you go to Stoke, historically, they've been a long ball type and much more direct. Every good Rotherham United team I've ever seen has had players that have just run themselves into the ground. You have the odd quality player in there. You look at Steve Evans, you've got Carrie Arneson, who was not hard worker, but an exceptional player. There's examples in every other good team. But we run. We work hard. You work for your man. You work for the fans. You work for the manager. That's the opposite of what we're seeing. Like, it's so passive. And again, that might be fine for other clubs in terms of how what their fans want. That's not what we want here. We want you to run around and work hard and add a bit of quality in there. And that's tough for us to watch that. And that's another reason why it's tough to take, because it's not what we're used to. It's not what we see from our best teams we've ever had.
Yeah, and I think the players that really do try and run themselves into the ground more or less every game is probably Wash and Rathbone. But for me, Ollie Rathbone is quintessentially Rotherham United, because the amount of passion that he has, even in games against Huddersfield, is brilliant. I think he was the only one who actually had his mind on the game and trying to get the best out of the game, both in a refereeing point of view and just as a team as well. Same with Wash. Wash was making loads and loads of runs through the back, but just no one was picking him up. And yeah, that comes down to a tactical thing as well. it does seem to be slow build up and trying to bring the ball forward. But then when we get to opposition's 18-yard box, we don't know what to do. We don't know whether to shoot or keep passing it. And we saw that against Huddersfield. We got to their 18-yard box, and I think everyone was just going, just have a go. 1-0 down, just have a go. And we just played it round the 18-yard box and didn't create anything really. And then we lose possession, and then we either get caught out with the ball over the top, which I believe is how Dwayne Holmes found himself in so much space for their first goal.
McCart coming too tight.
Yeah. Or we still try and do the slow build up, but then lose possession. Like, not because I love Dan Barlaser, don't get me wrong, but bloody hell, he needs to work on his short passing a little bit because he's losing possession far too. Yeah, he's far too off it. But again, the players are making the runs, but then no one's picking him up anyway. And then we just fail with the short pass, turnover of possession. And then it's getting to the point now where it's just like the fans and the players seem terrified to concede first because, let's face it, if we concede first, we're going to lose, aren't we, lads? That tends to be the thing. I even said at Huddersfield when they scored first, that's it, game's done, we're not going to win now. And yeah, sure enough, that's what happened. And both teams weren't good. Neither team had much quality there. It's just that Huddersfield actually had shots on target. Lindsay missed an absolute sitter. That could have brought it back to 2-1 and potentially given us a bit of confidence. But at the same time, it also summed up where we are. We've got to send into them positions, and then it just goes out the window. And that's exactly what happened with Lindsay's shot. And it's pure frustration just to watch. That's all it is. And I know being a Rotherham fan is pure frustration summed up. You look up frustration in the dictionary, there's a Rotherham United badge there. But at the same time, now that we've had this run, and like you said, Mick, we can take the Stoke game as the outlier in this data chart. But it's just been bad, and it, lads. And it is a shame to say because I just want the team to do well. Of course we do. But it's just like, where do you tweak? I think there's too many things that have been tweaked, but now can't tweak back, if that makes sense. And it's, yeah. I don't know where to start picking this apart. It was just bad, and that's it. We played better when we went to a 3 at the front, I think, anyway.
Yeah,
we played a front 3 and we got marginally better. So
was that because Huddersfield just weren't expecting it and it just...
Exactly.
Curveball.
Exactly, that's the thing. Is it that, or is it because that could be our system? We don't know. But at least we tweaked it a bit, and even if the advantage was slight, we still got a little bit of something out of it.
We did look a bit stronger when we went to 4 at back. There's no doubt about that. And which is weird because when we went to 4 at back last time against Hull, it were a disaster.
Well, yeah,
it was an absolute disaster. But this time it seemed to strengthen us a little bit. However, that may have been the Huddersfield had taken the foot off the gas. I don't know. Having said that, they never really had the foot on gas, did they? They looked at it a few times, but they never really pressed it, did they? They didn't need to.
Yeah.
Well, they're clearly not capable of pressing it either, are they? Otherwise, they won't be bottom at league. Anyway.
Adrek says, I think this is a little dig at Matt Taylor's comments. He says that Matt Taylor said that yesterday the belief wasn't there. Some of the players are really low physically as well as mentally. He then points out that they've had a month break. What's up? Nobody loves them anymore. They're supposed to be professionals.
Yeah, I'm not having that.
Which bit?
No. I mean that's precisely the manager's job.
That's what Matt Taylor said yesterday about being low physically.
It's his job.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
The manager's got to be the leader. He's got to lead. And he's got to make sure that they're in the right frame of mind. And put that's yeah. All right. It's a bit of a poor comment that, and to be fair,
from Matt Taylor, you mean?
Yeah, and I feel like I'm slagging him off a lot here. And I genuinely, I am not trying to be personal in any way, shape, or form. I don't have an opinion about him as a manager yet because he's not been here for long enough. I'm talking purely about the way that we're performing. But that's a cop out. That is a cop out, and that's for me not the sign of a good leader. If you're putting the responsibility there onto the players. because it's your role as manager, as leader of that squad, that group, to ensure that they're in the right place. And you shouldn't be playing them if they're not.
No. Paul Armin says it sounds like Matt Taylor's tried to fix something that wasn't broken. Surely you keep the same style of football the previous manager played, get the points, stay up, and introduce your new style. Yeah, that's the thing, Danny. We all know what Matt Taylor's trying to do. And I think in the long run, I think it's a progression. I do think that's the way forward for the football club, to change the system so you try to be a bit more technically better players, technically better on the ball, X, Y, and Z. You need to bring your own players in to do that, or you need to have a set of players that can do that, and you need time. 3 weeks with 2 of them in Cyprus is not enough time to implement such a drastic change. He talked when he came about tweaks. We're not talking about tweaks anymore, are we? We're talking about what feels like a full-scale change in terms of mentality and in terms of the way we're trying to not only play ourselves, but how we're trying to impact the opposition. It's too much too soon, I think. And the break may have hurt us, because maybe Matt Taylor can't coach that side. But maybe, the previous manager was so good at that intense side of the game and being emotionally involved. Maybe that's just not Matt Taylor. Maybe he can't coach in that way. So it was not a dig, because he can coach in different ways. But then that's a question of appointing him in the first place. Such a drastic change in style. It's difficult to take apart in it.
Yeah, it's definitely one for the psychologists amongst us, that one, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, looking back, like we said, yeah, it's a transitional period, and Matt Taylor did say he's not going to uproot everything, and to begin with, he didn't. And he did use that little break to try and instill his own way of thinking and his own tactics and everything into it. But like you said, because the way he wants to play, in hindsight, probably doesn't have the players to do that. I can understand people saying you play the old manager's system and just to get the points on the board and stay up and then build again. But at the same time, if you've been brought in just to play the old manager's way with the team that he's got, when do you start putting in your own thing? When do you put your own stamp on it, if not straight away? And it all comes back to January. But I agree with you, Mick. It shouldn't have to come down to the transfer window that's halfway through a season. But with January, it is again going to be big, because Matt Taylor now has the chance to at least get in some players that he can play his system with, and then try and get the best out of the way he wants to play with the players we've got. It shouldn't have to be like that, but they're the cards that we've got on the table at the minute. And again, it just bubbles back to the whole frustrating thing. It is frustrating because we want to like the guy and he's a good manager. But it's just frustrating that we've gone from playing really well to effectively owning the moniker of Tin Pot, because that's how we're playing right now.
Unless Man City or PSG are looking to offload the whole of their squad for free in January, and he's not going to get the players to play possession football effectively because they don't exist. It feels to me a little bit like a David Artell at Crewe situation coming up here, where we are going to play out our goal kicks from the back, no matter how many times we give away a goal or a corner, because that's the way we play. That's the way football should be played. Pep's done it. He's done it at Barcelona. He's done it at Man City. That's how it should be played. That's not right. And that's only part of the way that those teams have played their football.
You look at the Barcelona team, their press was one of the best presses there's ever been.
Any of those teams that are renowned for that kind of football, the key part of their game is the press. It's absolutely essential, because you can play as much football as you like, but if you haven't got ball, you can't play any. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's the new way, innit? It's the modern way. The modern coaches want to play they want to play football. They want to play the ball on the ground. They want to play with possession, and knock it about and then play some nice football. It's great and it's fantastic to watch when it works. But we've said it year after year after year for the last 10, 12 years. Teams come down to New York Stadium. They try and play the ball about across the back, and then they're just not effective at it. And as soon as you put those teams under pressure, whoever they are, Burnley were the top of the league had a problem with it. Sheffield United, who are second in the league, had a problem with it. And other teams throughout the division had a problem with it. All League One had an issue with it because they couldn't deal with it. They couldn't deal because the players are not good enough. And our players aren't good enough. I don't know. I'm sorry. It's just, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. And the key to this now is whether Matt Taylor and his team identify that there's a problem. I mean, we can all see that there's a problem, but that's one thing. It's whether they identify that there is a problem, and if they do, what they're going to do about it. Because it's not working. It's not even close, is it?
No, it's not even close. We'll get a moment of positivity while we look back at another moment of the podcast here, and then we've got. I like sprinkling this in because we're getting nothing but negativity, and I'm not having a dig. This is just where we are. So
it's like having a little teaspoon of Oromorph just to get us through this podcast. All these little happy moments.
This one was my mixed pick for the podcast, and this may well be one of the best moments in the podcast we've ever had. So it was hilarious. Again, see if you can pick the game, which this was a review of. Here you go.
Hello. Welcome to New York Talk, the Rotherham United podcast. You may be wondering why I'm doing the intro. You will find out very, very shortly. Won't we, Matthew?
We'll find out pretty quickly, I think, yeah.
It's like doing a podcast with Scooby-Doo.
Seems to be a little bit of an issue with one or two voices on here. I thought mine was pretty bad, to be honest, but it would appear that Matthew was, may well have damaged his voice box at some stage, and I don't even know when that could have possibly been.
Who knows when that could have happened? Who knows?
Anyway, over to you, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for that, Nick. Thanks for the intro. Thank you very much. So sorry about this. I've tried everything, and this is the best we're going to get today, I'm afraid. I am sorry.
Like Scoop.
I've tried cuff sweets, I've tried ice cream, I've tried hot water, cold water. This is it. This is what we've got, everybody. Sorry.
That was post-match of the Papa John's Trophy final. It took me about 10 days for I used to come back after Aussie 2-2. So thank you very much, Jordy. Was swanning off in Germany, doing quite well. I enjoyed that.
That's cheered me up a bit.
That's enough positivity. Let's move on. David Curran says, thinks we're missing the point massively. How can Taylor improve the side where the chairman is not willing to spend any money? Nick's banging on about Matt Taylor. It's not even his team. The big team players are not performing. Tony needs to sell the club. Now, this is a question and point that's been raised vociferously, if that's the right word, Danny, on social media. For me, we can all talk about Tony Stewart, what he's done for the club. We can all talk about that. Obviously, what's important is the here and now. That's obviously the most important. Matt Taylor hasn't had a transfer window. This is how I see it. Matt Taylor hasn't had a transfer window. So we don't know how far Tony Stewart is willing to back Matt Taylor. We can all assume that he is going to back him. And that's a fair assumption because in the past, there has been a lack of investment at this level. But at this stage, we don't know. So with 4 days away, 2 days away, as we record, away from the January transfer window. So if we're saying that we need to wait and hopefully Matt Taylor gets backed, well, let's have this conversation again in February because we need to wait for those conversations to happen, for those players to potentially to come in. That, for me, that's a conversation for in a month's time. Where do you sit on that?
It's funny actually because me and Dave had a conversation about this at Huddersfield as well, and I won't say exactly what we've said because obviously it's a conversation with me and David, but it was very much echoed on Twitter with someone's breaking down of it, which is if Tony wants to reap the rewards of the championship, as I'm sure any chairman wants to in a club where they wants to make money, you still have to spend your money to make your money in this division because unfortunately that's how it works. Someone, I can't remember the name of the Twitter account, so I am sorry, but he said something about, hypothetically, if he invested 2 million into the squad through whatever means in January, and it makes us stay up, which he probably will if we get everything correct, then you still get in 7 or 8 million just for being in this division. But if he spends nothing, and as it stands right now, we keep plummeting down and then go down, and you get nothing, and then you have to rebuild again anyway. So I think it would actually be in Tony's best interest to invest. If he does, that's a completely different story. He might look at cashing in on some players to get that extra boost in money, but then again, it leaves you another man or 2 or 3 short. So then you have to bring even more in. And yeah, I agree. I think it is time for Tony to look at the January window and go, right, this is our chance to now stay up. We need to put money in. But you say that, Danny, when's the last time we spent a lot of money in a January window? It's not going to be loans in it. I can see it happening. It's just going to be loans. We didn't really have a good. I think the last good January transfer window we had is when we brought in Matt Crooks. I think he was a January signing, wasn't he?
To be fair, the last time in the Championship, we brought in Ryan Giles and Lewis Wing, and both had big impacts in that season. I know we went down, but they were big players in that last. So from that point, that was a good. I mean, you could count George Kelly. He played 1 game last season, so I suppose we can't count that. But
yeah, true. But yeah, like you say, in the Championship, we brought in Ryan Giles and Lewis Wing. Yeah, fair enough. Good point. They did have good impacts. And Ryan Giles has certainly gone on to bigger and better things. But at the same time, we're looking at this going, yeah, that's 2 players when really we could have done with 3 or 4. So that's swings and the roundabouts of the whole January thing. But yeah, in my head anyway, it makes sense for Tony to go, right, let's spend the money and try and stay up because it bigger rewards further down the line. But at the same time, knowing how the man thinks, it's a bit, he's not really going to splash out on a big player, is he? And secondly, will any big players want to come to Rotherham for the wages that we offer?
The wages are this issue. The issue is that the counterpoint to that is if you spend 2 million, let's just lose it a round number because it's a good round number. If we spend 2 million quid and still go down, we're not necessarily going to be in a position to be strong enough to come back straight away. And that, again, I don't know if that's the thinking of the club. I don't know if they just don't want to spend the money or whether they're thinking, right, we've got to make sure just in case we go down, we're still in a situation. I don't know. I'm more to that. I agree, Danny. I think that you've got to speculate to accumulate, something like that. But then again, Mick, loans aren't free. So if we are going to bring in, we've now got space. If Brook Norton Coffee stays, we'll have space for 4 loans. Obviously 5 if Brook Norton Coffee goes. Apparently, we're only in the market for loans. But if you can nail 4 loans or even 3 good loans, that'll do us. I think we're getting away from the fact that we've got a good set of players. We've got some good players here. We've not got, a group of National League players.
No,
they were the second best team in the division in League One last year, and obviously deservedly got promoted. And for a quarter of this season, we're comfortably the relegation zone. I don't care whether we're 8th. I'm bothered about relegation zone. We're comfortably better than the bottom 3 in the division. So we're not a million miles off. But we do need something. We need fresh, we need bodies because we've got about 8 people left, I think.
Yeah, I mean that squad depth is obviously a massive issue now, particularly now with all the injuries that we've managed to acquire over the last few weeks, which is an issue. I've not seen any complaining about the fitness training causing all these issues. All of a sudden, that seems to have gone out the window. But there you go. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. And for me, it's more glaringly obvious that it's about the way that we're playing than the players that we've got. Because we've seen the 2 polar opposites of this very same team's performances, haven't we, this season? We've seen the early part of the season and these last few games, which they're poles and poles apart. It's the same players. The only difference can be what they're being asked to do. Do they not believe in what they're being asked to do, or they're not capable of doing what they're being asked to do? What is what they're being asked to do just not working anyway? I don't know what it is, but the players are capable. The players that we've got are capable. We just haven't got enough of them. I know people don't agree with me, and I get that, but like somebody like Dave Scriven said, it's about opinions, isn't it? You know what I mean? And my opinion is that the squad of players that we've got are good enough. There's just not enough of them. However, the way that they're playing is quite clearly not good enough. And it's about, as a management team, investigating the reasons why they're not performing to the level that they're more than capable of performing at.
Yeah, it's tough. We don't know. It's not our money that we're spending for a start. People have mentioned about, and I've actually put a few things in the comments about Tony Stewart at the start of the season, suggesting the budget will be higher. We know some of the targets we went for in August, and we know the one that went to Wigan, that we were reportedly offering crazy wages to keep Ashley Fletcher here. And from the reports that I've heard, it was Paul Warne that put a stop to it, and Tony Stewart was willing to go higher. So Tony Stewart was willing to go higher, but it was stopped. Damn it, that's a pound. It was the manager at the time who stopped that money being spent because he essentially didn't think it was worth it, which is fine. And I probably agree with that way it's turned out with Ashley Fletcher, to be honest with you. We look at the money that he was trying to throw at Michael Smith. So I don't think we should be saying he hasn't thrown any money, Danny. I think it's a bit unfair to say he hasn't thrown any money and he hasn't increased the budget. He clearly has. We've attracted Cameron Humphreys, a couple of the play, a couple of signs. Tommy's is on championship wages, not massive, but he's on championship wages. So there has been an increase in the budget, maybe not as much as we'd all like. We'd all like £2 million extra. We'd all like £5 million extra, but we don't know. I suppose is the point. It is difficult for us to judge and say he should have spent more or he spent enough because we just don't know.
No, we don't. We're not going to be messaging the clubs going, now then can we have a look at your finance book, please?
How much exactly is each player on per week? No.
And how much of the pie is going to wages? We want to see the chart. But no, we're not going to get that. But yeah, like you said, there is obviously a little bit of an increase with the money going to wages. Like we have got Cameron Humphreys and obviously Jamie Lindsay's on a new contract as well. We don't know how much the players are being offered as an increase to their contracts at the minute. But we have heard rumblings that one of them has signed, which, if social media is to be believed, but pinch of salt with that as you take it, it's probably Wes Harding who's agreed to sign on again. But just going back to the players we were looking at, and like you say, with Ashley Fletcher and offering crazy money, and it was the previous manager that said no. We had other players like that who have had a lot of depth in championship experience in Robert Snodgrass, who we were effectively ready to sign on with. But again, previous manager said no, and he's ended up at Hearts, I think it is. And obviously Hearts offer a fair whack of a wage, don't they?
They were in Europe, so they will have been able to offer reasonable.
Yeah, so 16k maybe at Hearts. Maybe. So obviously there is the willingness to do it, to put that little bit of money in, but it's just it needs to start coming off now. And yeah, in January, perfect chance, offer that a little bit more, might prove fruitful sort of thing. But we talk about investment and such, and again, I've took this from social media, so pinch of salt, because it's not written law on social media these days. But there was investment that wanted to come in during the summer. And I think there was an American consortium or something that wanted to put money in, as well as a Swedish one. So that might have been Victor's dad's.
That's biased.
It might have been. It might have been. He's secretly a billionaire in Sweden.
They realised they decided not to bother.
Yeah. So that's why he's offered to pay for my flights out to Sweden. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, there was interest there in terms of what I've seen on social media, and Tony's the one who said no because he wanted the full control of the club, which as chairman is well within his right to do. Fair enough. But we are starting to see the little avenues of how more money could come in, but it's just we need to have the application that's correct and sorts it out. And if we are willing to pay the big money, that's the next risk shall we say, that we need to take forward and actually offer that player a bit more money rather than trying to squeeze it down as much as you can. But again, that's the risk that you have to take. But yeah, like you say, Matt, we'd all love to have an extra 2 to 5 million investment, wouldn't we? Because we might actually be comfortable then and not stressing.
You are aware that if somebody invests £5 million, for example, into Rotherham United, they expect to take more out of it.
Yeah, if they invest 5, they'll want at least 15 out, won't they?
Yeah, exactly. So this investment thing, people look at it. It appears to me that people look at it as if it's like somebody coming along and going, here's £5 million. Hey, I get a director after my name or something, and that's it, never to be seen again. No. You know, if somebody comes from
few and far between, aren't they?
Club, they're going to want to take money out of it. That's the whole point. Otherwise, it's not an investment; it's a gift.
Exactly.
So
Still, here's the thing that it could be worse. We could be Rochdale, where they are asking people to put money into the club.
Yeah,
you can also Crawley. Look at the absolute chaos that's happened at Crawley by these American. Again, an American investment company that had changed minds after 32 days, and their owner is on the bench tonight as an assistant to the coach. It isn't Darren Byfield, actually. Their owner is an assistant to the caretaker manager. So as much as people are entitled to the opinion to slag Tony Stewart off and Paul Douglas and Matt Taylor and everybody else, and I'm not going to sit here and say if people don't like it when we mention the past, that's fine. We'll not mention what's happened in the past. Let's look at other clubs currently that have been bought over by foreign owners, particularly American owners, where it's all gone belly up. Crawley is a key one. They thought they were one of the richest clubs in the world or something like that when they were bought by these NFT clowns. And the state they're in now, the absolute state they're in, you've got to be careful. I mean, you've got to give trust to the people that run the club that they are doing it in the best interest. You can say they're not spending enough. I can't believe that Tony Stewart doesn't have the best interests of the club at heart. You can argue with the way he's going about it. You can argue that he's not doing it right or he's saying the wrong things, but he's never going to go on.
Tony Stewart's got the best interests of Rotherham United Football Club Limited at heart.
Yeah.
The business of Rotherham United. That's where his interests lie. And that's where he's different to many other football club owners. And that's why we're as stable as we are. So yeah, he's not a multi-millionaire who's going to keep shipping money in for no return. Why would he? You know, I'd love him to do that, but I'm the same as a lot of other Rotherham United fans, all moan like hell because they put 20p on the price of a pie or a pint. You know what I mean? They're not willing to pay an extra 20p into the club, let alone however many million. That's normal. You know, I mean, that's not a criticism of anybody, but he's willing to keep the club afloat as a going concern.
Apparently, UK's returns for investors could come in all shapes and sizes. Making an investment could come in with the condition of building a pub or a hotel next to the ground. That's certainly
you're taking Rotherham Borough Council out of that equation, there, aren't you? You know what I mean?
True.
So you're going to have to line a few pockets in there before you're going to get anything out of them.
I reckon one of these investors will actually travel lodge, and because they couldn't use the Guest and Grounds facility, that's why they're now getting one in town rather than on the stadium site. Thinking caps. Well, tinfoil hats more like, but you know.
Smashhead Swim School says Tony Stewart has the best interest of the business as any other business owner. Yeah, of course. But
that's key.
Built it from being a dead club. So I think he's more invested in it because of where he's taken it. Again, I assume I don't know. I've never spoken to Tony Stewart, so we're all making assumptions.
Let's get him on and have a chat with him. That'll be fun.
If Tony wants to come on, he's always welcome to come on.
Absolutely.
Chris Page says that Rex Monas, as we know, thought it was the two to three promotions into the Championship. Yeah, you've got to be careful what you wish for. This is a key thing with football. It's all right saying he has, a bag full of cash. What's attached to the bag? You know what I mean? You've got to be careful. And that sounds like I'm being overly cautious, that I don't want anything to ever change. I would love for there to be fresh investment and for somebody to come into this club and rejuvenate the training ground, make that state of the art, get sort of Guest and Crimes, like plough loads of money into that to make this, cinema or hotel or whatever next to the ground to make it a beacon for the town. I'm not convinced that's realistic. It's where I'm sitting, but I may be wrong. I don't know. Go on, Danny. You were going to say something.
Yeah, just to clear, this is obviously going to happen at the end of the episode, lads. But I do have a funny story to do with Chris Page's comment about Wrexham, but I'll save that for the end of the podcast. Just so I'll give you a little heads up, a tease on that.
You'll have to remind me.
Yeah.
What I like is the discussion, I suppose, Nick. The discussion on social media. So there's some over the far Tony's, terrible. There's others which are Tony's the saviour. I feel this is somewhere in the middle, to be honest with you. Which is not really a surprise. I think as a podcast, we should be able to move up and down the scale. But it's good that, I suppose, is it good that we're getting this promotion? It's the results on the pitch that are causing this conversation, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, they are.
If we won 2 out of last 4, we wouldn't have this conversation, would we?
Well, I don't know. I think we may be. If we manage to clear that corner against Stoke, I think we'd probably still be having this conversation. If we got tighter for both those goals last night and it were an out-of-piece draw, I think we'd still be having these conversations because the drop-off in performances has been so drastic since the World Cup. It's been literally it's been almost off a cliff, and it for me as supporters, and we don't deserve an explanation. We don't, but it'd be nice to get an explanation as to why this has happened. But maybe it's a question that Matt Taylor and his team don't know the answer to yet. I assume, because if they did know the answer, they'd hopefully be doing something about it. I don't know where we go from here, to be honest with you. And obviously we move on to Millwall on New Year's Day with about 4 fit players. I'm decided I'm not going to bother having a drink on New Year's Eve and polish my boots just in case.
I'll go through a few more comments.
I'll have a couple, but I should be all right.
Yeah. Go through a few more comments. We've got loads that we've missed. Power UK says it was garbage yesterday. Loves Chio, but Chio yesterday was abysmal. My carpet moved more than him.
That's a fantastic comment. Can I just say that's fantastic?
Sean Green says, putting it politely, it was poor. Putting it less politely, it was abysmal. I can think of a different, less polite word that I was saying on Thursday night, much with everybody else. Gaza says he thinks we appointed the wrong manager for the job. Unfortunately, we are in a relegation battle. Yeah, possibly. Chris Page says, has the backroom staff hit more than the previous manager leaving? We had a good bunch, yeah. Maybe it's a coaching issue. Players are getting used to the new coaches that are getting our ideas across and things like that. That's an interesting point.
There's no possibility about being in a relegation battle, Matt. If these performances continue, we won't even be in a battle. We'll just be in relegation.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're already in a battle.
It is that simple.
The key word's battle, though, isn't it? And that's the key word.
Yeah, it is.
It's a battle. Treat it like one.
The level of performance.
We come back to that. And I know that a lot of this blame lies on the players' door, Danny. But these players, I've seen what these players have given for us. Most of them, there's some new recruits. But I've seen what some of these players have given to the football club. So I can't just assume that they've suddenly decided, I can't be bothered anymore. This club, Sodom. For me, I agree with Mick, it must be something tactically rather than the players are now just suddenly not bothered, because we know that they are.
Yeah, just going back to with the Dan Barlaser thing, we know how much Barlaser is invested in this club, because let's face it, he actually does really like it here, even though he's destined for bigger and better things. I just think it's going to be a lot of things that have stacked on top of each other. There's never one root cause to something changing like this. It's a lot of different issues that have actually worked together or against you. So it could be just players are out of form. They could have had a bit of a heavy Christmas dinner. That's a joke, by the way. I know that's not the case. It's all things like it could be tactically, and then players are out of form, and then even though they're coming back into form, the tactics aren't suiting their style or ability or whatever, this, that, and other. So I really don't think it's a case of players downing tools, because really psychologically we don't have the sort of players that would down tools. They're the ones that went in the summer, and one of them's gone to Ipswich. So we don't really have that ethos in the players, because they're all mates and they're mucking together, and even with the new recruits, they're mucking in because everybody else mucks in together. So I do think it's just things that have come together and worked against us, and it could be just tactics, adjusting to new coaching staff, adjusting to new coaching styles, which is another big one. And then trying to play a different style of football, and then players out of form, because we always have a dip around this time, and it usually gets the worst in February. So we'll have to wait and see with that one. But yeah, like I said, Matt, I agree. I don't think it plays down in tools at all.
Yeah. Moving on to Millwall, Nick. Nothing's going to change because he ain't got time to change it. Even if Matt Taylor decided last night, right, sod this, we're going to go back. We're going to press from minute one. You haven't got time to implement that. So I can't see how much different Sunday's going to be. Do you disagree?
I don't know. I mean, Millwall's home form's not that good, to be fair, but then neither were Huddersfield, so that probably is irrelevant. You've just got you've got to live in hope, haven't you? That something changes, something clicks, either with the team, with the players, with the manager, whatever. I'm sure that the manager and his team are more than capable of keeping us in this division. I'm sure they are. The issue is, and I talked about it earlier on, it's about momentum, isn't it? You know, and not only within a game that you've got momentum, but within the season. And we're now on a real sort of quite a very steep downward trajectory at the moment in terms of levels of performance. And it's going to take some turning around. And I don't think, like you say, I just can't see that they're going to be able to turn it around in a day or 2 days, whatever, the gap between the games. So I don't hold a great deal of hope out for it, I'll be honest, on Saturday, Sunday, whenever it is. It's a worry. And couple that with the injuries from yesterday, key players. In Colin Bramall, we've got a replacement in Shane Ferguson, so that's not a massive issue potentially. Chio Ogbene, I don't know who we're going to play up front. Eves out, Ogbene out, Kelly out. We haven't got another front player, have we?
I can play up top. I've got a shirt with a number on
school.
Yeah. Thanks for your assistance, lads. That's really helpful. I'll give Matt a ring now and ask him.
Right. Just Mick, I don't like correcting you, but the Millwall have the 4th best home form in the division.
Well, yeah, they may have.
Cheer up, everybody! Happy New Year.
At this point now, we're all just going on a jolly down to Millwall just to be on the couches, aren't we? It's just going to be a giggle on there. Like we'll just go, we have to put up with 2 hours of football, but we get 6 hours worth of drinking. Right, Sam? That's New Year's Day sorted, isn't it? The bad thing about New Year's Day is having to go and watch the football for 2 hours. That's what it is.
We have 2-week break from the league after Sunday. So from that point of view, it's almost get through this game, maybe getting up a couple of players, get 2 full weeks with the players. You've always got the FA Cup in between, which we want to win, which we'll inevitably lose because we always do in the FA Cup. But it gives another break, and I think the worst thing we could is keep playing. I think we just need a break, possibly. Ref watch, I haven't done a screen grab, but it is the one and only Mr. Gavin Ward.
Oh my God!
Now you say that, what is it? 6 wins in a row? 6 wins out of the last 5 or something like that for Gavin Ward for us.
6 out of 5. I'll tell for that, mate.
It's what?
6 wins out of 5. I'll have a bit of that.
6 wins or 5.
Oh, right.
6. Yeah, something like that. I'll find out. He did referee the QPR game against midweek. Who did QPR lose to yesterday? Luton. He did referee that game and with some questionable decisions, to be honest. Nothing major.
No, never.
Not my Gav. Where are we? So 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 wins out of the last 5. Yeah, I think we are Gav. So we'll see how that goes. In terms of players, my count is 16 fit first team members, which sounds okay, but you've got 4 of those are centre backs. If you count Peltier as a centre back, that's 5 as centre backs. Now, one of them is Wes, who's versatile. So more than a quarter of the players that are available are centre backs, which is great. 1 fit striker, just about enough to fill the middle of the pitch, Mick. It's going to be really, really tough Really, really tough. Millwall are a solid team. Even if we had a full squad, this would have been a tough game, wouldn't it? Let's be right. Millwall are a solid enough Championship team that can cause anybody problems.
Yeah, they are. They are. There's no doubt about it, and they've got it right, haven't they? They stay in this division year after year, and don't pull any trees up. They just go about the business, and quietly, and manage to stay in it comfortably, with very little class. To be fair, and I don't mean that as a criticism. It's just that they're just a solid side, easily achievable. I don't think they've got any more talented players than we've got at all. At any of the times we've been in this division, I don't think Millwall have had any more talented players than we have, perhaps with the odd exception. But yeah, it's going to be a toughie. It's going to be a toughie. We'll have, like I said, put Woody up front because they've got that 6'20" central defender.
They were giants, weren't they? Our place.
Yeah, they were. Yeah. So you know that means we're not going to play it in air, but that's exactly what we did when they came to our place, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
with Washington up front on his own.
Yeah.
Bit long to wash.
Yeah.
Paul Armin says, "Do we think Matt Taylor will be given January if a heavy defeat against Millwall?" Now, I know for a fact that none of us want Matt Taylor to be sacked, probably before the end of the season. The question is, Danny, if we got into February, and let's say, I'll give you an extreme example. If we have not won a game since then, knocked out the FA Cup without any wins during that period, so let's say we get to mid-February, we play Reading on the 14th of February. If we've then not beaten any Millwall, Blackburn, Watford, Sunderland, Sheffield United, Blackpool, or Reading, losing most of them, could you see the trigger being pulled? Not would you want it to be pulled? Could you see it being pulled?
No, because it doesn't make financial sense, in my opinion. Anyway, I think a lot of fans have the sense to look at Taylor and just go, he needs two windows to at least assemble some sort of squad that it wants to that can apply his style. You need to give a manager at least two windows. I mean, I know we were absolutely horrific in the 16-17 season, but we'd still given Alan. No, we hadn't given Alan Stubbs his two windows, had we? Because the football window. Yeah, he had the summer window and it was just atrocious. I mean, Taylor hasn't had one window yet.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's going to go this season. I still think Taylor will be the manager in 2023, the summer of 23. And I'm willing to put money on that. I will put on record right now, I'm going to put 15 quid on Matt Taylor still being the manager in the summer of 23, regardless of how poorly we play and how his January goes.
Fair enough.
I'm not saying who I'm making the bet with. I'm just saying there's 15 quid on the line.
All I'll say, Mickey, is I'll hark back. Historically, Tony Stewart is not actually that patient to the chairman. You look at Neil Redfern, you look at Alan Stubbs. Obviously, we had great times with Steve Evans and the other manager that we sacked last time. Avoiding his name badly there. But he isn't actually as patient. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It worked when you sacked Redford because you got Warnock in and we stayed up. So again, that's not a dig, but I'm just saying I don't think he's as patient. If we get to end of February and we're deep in the relegation zone, I could see him pulling the trigger. I assume. What do you think?
Yeah, I suppose he could. He could. I don't think it probably wouldn't be the right decision because I think eventually Matt Taylor will become a very, very good manager. But I think he's got a lot to learn still, and I'm sure he knows that as well himself. That's not something that's going to come as a surprise to anybody, is it? He's reasonably new into the game. He's a young fellow with new modern ideas. So I don't know what Tony Stewart will do. It's going to cost us to go back down if we go back down. And look, we're talking about this after 3 games, aren't we? Admittedly, 3 dreadful performances, but it's not forced to continue for the rest of the season. And if it does, then we'll go down with the points that we've got now. We'll not pick up very many between now and the end of the season if it doesn't change. But I'm sure that a manager or a person, a man of the caliber that Matt Taylor is, and his staff with the experience that they've got, that they will adapt and they will alter things, and things will turn round. Whether they'll turn around enough, I don't know. Whether they'll turn around enough for Tony Stewart or not, anybody's guessing it. Nobody really knows. Nobody can get into the mind of the chairman. He's his own man, and he doesn't suffer fools, does he?
No. You know what? Again, I'm not saying this. I obviously don't want that, but I'm just pointing out it could. Scott Price says Tony Stewart will not back Matt Taylor, but he won't sack him because it would cost a few million to pay up his contract. Neil Evans was signed in a 2.5-year contract. Steve Evans was not at the end of his contract. He's not scared to pull the trigger at people in long contracts.
Yeah.
That's all I'm sort of saying. If he does get sacked, I'll be claiming it's the call of the season. But I'm not predicting it at this stage.
No, I don't think we're even close to
He's been here for 3 months and he hasn't had a transfer window. Everyone needs to calm down.
But if worst case now, if he's won 3 games in 3 months, that's not good enough, is it? That's
the performances, man.
Worst case scenario. I'm not. I feel like I'm trying to stir things. I'm not. I'm just saying worst case scenario. What next? You know what I mean?
It depends on the level of performance. It's not necessarily about results in this division. We all know we're experienced enough with the Championship to know that some results that you get, a lot of results you get, sometimes you just don't deserve them, particularly the defeats. So it's not about the results; it's about the performances. If the performances are up there, the level in the standard in this division this year will be fine.
You've got so many bad teams down there and all.
I think if we put a football heads on and we are still playing absolutely horrifically, West Brom, Huddersfield level performances, even after a transfer window, then certainly the thought will go into Stuart's head of, shall we bring somebody else in? I think that's actually the human reaction as someone who is running the Rotherham United business, not the football club. The notes change. So yeah, hypothetically, if we're still putting in West Brom, Huddersfield level of performances where we've legit got no back going forward, even after a transfer window, that's when the brain brings in. Even if that's the case, I still think he'll give him until the summer. I really do, because football's a funny old game. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from, Matt, definitely. But we're not. I don't think we're at panic stations just yet. That panic station is going to come in February. If we are still pony in February, that's when the panic button starts getting pushed. I wonder if Tony's got a big red button under his desk and he just presses it, and that's his panic button. He just assembles the board of directors. Like the Avengers.
Chris Page says, who we're going to beat next? It's a tough one. I've just read you the fixtures off, so include Ipswich in there. That's actually that's a pretty unkind run of fixtures. Blackburn, they're actually not in form at the minute, but they're still a good team. Watford are a great team. Sunderland are in incredible form. Sheffield United are going to get promoted. Blackpool on the 11th of February could be an absolute blockbuster, couldn't it? Potentially. That's looking way, 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 way down the line. Let's do some predictions from Millwall. To be honest with you, there's no point predicting lineups. I said there's quarter of the players that are available on Sunday are defenders. I'd keep us into that. Half of the players that are available are either goalkeepers or defenders. So there's no point predicting because we know who's going to play, to be honest with you. Predictions for the score, Mick. What would you like to say?
I think we'll lose 2-0.
Oh, so negative. Danny?
Yeah, sorry.
I'm going to have to agree with Mick. I don't think we're going to win. I'm going to say, you know what? First game at New Year. I'm going to try and be positive, mainly because I think I'm going to be drunk. I'm going to say we're going to draw 1-1 again.
That is really positive. Much more positive than I thought you were going. I'm going to go 3-0 defeat. You can't see it. That's how down I am. It feels set. I sat down watching game last night. I didn't go, but I sat down and watched game, and I just felt that we were going to lose within the first. I know they were rubbish in the first 10 minutes. Just penetration. So for the millions of things we've already mentioned, I don't think we're going to score, to be honest with you, which is frighteningly disappointing. We've got a couple of comments. Harvey Kelwick says 0-0. I would take that. Powerwood UK was going to say 2-0 loss, but he's Gavin Moore. He's going to go 4-0 loss. Chris Tether says as many as they want and us nil. Sean Green says a 1-0 loss as well. Yeah. Let's finish on positives. It's the end of the year. This is it. The 2022 is at an end. Moment of the year. Arguing with Danny, I assume you're going to say Georgia. Or would you like to change it up and go something a little bit different?
You've put doubt in my mind now because there's been so many iconic moments just this year, aren't there? So I'm going to cop out here, lads. I'm going to list them off, and I want the comments to pick from this list for me. Right. As long as Finn stops wiping his head on the floor, making a strange squeaking noise. Right. So first one is battering Doncaster 5-0.
Forgot about that.
Yeah. Second one, going New Plough Lane for the first time as fans. That was nice. Me and Will Daniels in the executive box doing podcast. That was nice. Beating Sheff Wednesday 2-0 at Hillsborough and the ensuing scenes afterwards. Wembley winning the first trophy of the modern era, shall we say. Gillingham, and then Sheffield United, giving you 6 there. Yeah. I know which one mine is.
S64 Miller says it's her dad falling down 3 rows at Gillingham and me not knowing where he was has got to be a favourite.
That's my new That's my new favourite.
And you just buggered off to back at stand.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was sparked my memory, to be fair, because at Gillingham, when we scored the second goal, I went through 3 rows of seats and the seats just parted in front of me because they're ancient at Gillingham, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've got two moments of this year were probably potentially two of the best moments of my football watching life and watching Rotherham United. The first one was Ozzy Tutu's goal at Wembley. It was just so special. I don't know why. I mean, it just is the timing and everything else just amazing. And then obviously George's goal at Gillingham probably capped off one of the best away days that I've ever had. So those 2 moments for me were worth all the pain of the last few weeks, to be honest with you. And then to be fair, it's the pain we're suffering now and these last few weeks that make moments like that even sweeter, even greater, even more memorable, innit?
I think I said at the time on the podcast, I probably said this, and if I didn't, I should have said it. You've got to remember those moments. You know, when you're in them, remember them because there will come a time in the Championship, which is now, where things are going terribly bad. We're on a terrible run of form. But we've got to remember those epic moments that got us here. And it's not all bad. There's still a couple of great moments to come this season. Whether we stay up or not is another matter. Especially Donna and Sebastian says Gillingham and Sheffield United close second. She didn't think it was Wembley, even though it was Youngman's first trip to Wembley. It only came alive in extra time. S64 Miller more on her dad falling down the seats. The best thing about it was he'd taken out the young kids in front of him.
God. Under the wrecking ball.
Brilliant. Yeah. It's difficult. I can't really separate the Aussie 2-2 and George's goal. For 2 separate reasons. They're just... I don't think I've celebrated a goal like the Aussie 2-2 one. The Georgie moment was special because of everything. But that moment, that ball at the back of the net, Wembley, I don't think I've ever gone as mad at a football game. I just couldn't contain myself. Yeah. It was just something else. You know, you watch it on telly sometimes in cup finals and you're praying for one of the teams to get a last-minute goal. So there's scenes in the stand and there's chaos, and we were involved in that moment. We were there in that cup final. But George's goal is... We talked about at the time. It's an Alan Lee moment. It's an Alex Ravel moment. It's a Freckleton moment. Things come along so little in football clubs. There'll be football clubs football fans or the clubs that have never seen moments like that in their club's history. And I just reeled off 4 in fairly recent times. And this year, so yeah.
It's just been an absolutely mad 2022 to be a Rotherham fan, isn't it?
Crazy.
It's been absolutely mental. Like
it's
more's happened,
like it has, but
more things have happened in this year than has happened in some clubs' entire history.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Not to shoot daggers at a certain franchise team. But yeah, it's 2022 has just been quintessentially Rotherham United because we've just been hit with so much stuff over and over again. But like you've just said, Matt, Georgie's goal was a quintessentially football story goal. You know, he comes in January, gets injured, builds him into the team, makes his debut on the final day, and then gets the promotion sealing goal. That's a quintessential footballing story. But with Wembley, just to be in that situation that clubs pray for, you know, you're 2-1 down to the team that's, you know, the underdog, and you still somehow rescue it. And every angle I've watched of that Wembley goal, whether it's on telly, on my vlog, on Tiny's vlogs, on just people's phones that just so happen to be recording and caught it, every time there's a split-second pause where roughly...
silence.
Yeah, where we just can't quite fathom what's just happened. And the best thing is, we scored twice in the 96th minute, one to draw it and one to effectively just start running away with it. And then, I still maintain this fact, only 2 teams have won 4-2 at Wembley in a cup final after extra time. England and Rotherham.
There you go. We're now going to refer to ourselves as world champions, Rotherham United.
Yeah.
Champions of the world. Rusty says it was Wembley for her getting to extra time by the skin of our teeth and then smashing it. Don also says, especially if you listen to the podcast with the previous manager and here that was 50-50 with Kelly getting selected. Yeah, the story behind it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's us signing off 22. Thank you all for being involved. Thank you for everybody who has been involved with the podcast, whether it's in the comments, whether you've said hello to us at the stadium. We've met some great people. One of the great things of the podcast is meeting random people. I only knew Mick before we started this podcast. I genuinely didn't have any of the Rotherham United friends. They're all pigs, and we've met some great people doing this podcast for one reason or another. So thank you all. Keep saying hello to us because we like saying hello. Danny's going to finish off with the Wrexham story he's promised us.
Yeah. So if Ryan Reynolds ends up buying Rotherham United, you've got me to thank for this. Hey, you think I'm kidding? Right. So. My dad was down at this, the Bonkers Bingo thing that they do. Well, he was hosting the one that was in Wrexham, and the guy who owns the Turf pub that's next to the racecourse ground was in the Bonkers Bingo thing, completely smashed out of his head. And he got talking to me, dad, and he says, "Oh, you need to come and sing in my pub and this, that, and other. I can sort you out Wrexham tickets and this, that, and other." And then he says to him, "Oh, I've got Ryan Reynolds in my phone. Do you want to speak to him?" And so he rings him, it goes to voicemail, and I text my dad. He says he was getting his phone out and ringing him. I said, "Make sure you tell Ryan Reynolds to buy Rotherham United and start his own little football club franchise like Man City have got." So Ryan Reynolds has got a message on his phone of some drunk guy going, "I think you should buy Rotherham United and Motherwell and start a UK franchise for a football team. We can call it the Tin Pot franchise." So if Ryan Reynolds comes in as the next invest, I think that might have been the investment in the summer from the American consortium. Even though
they'd already bought Wrexham.
Oh, shame.
It could have been one of his mates, Brad Pitt or
Will Ferrell,
Hugh Jackman, something like that. There'd be something.
Yeah. Have I fallen asleep and started dreaming?
Football is cool at the minute, isn't it? It's been made cool by other things. So anyway. Thank you, everybody, for being with us for the I've already mentioned. We will be back on Monday, Bank Holiday Monday. We'll allow Danny time to get back from Millwall, hopefully safe and sound. Hope we all have a lovely new year. Get drunk if you want to get drunk. Go to bed early if you want to go to bed early. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Let's hope 2023 is as epic as 2022 has been. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Mick. Thank you, Danny. Happy New Year. See you next time.
Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Ravel. Vicious. Brilliant. You're with it. Wood's got round the back, and Richie Wood has done it again! The magic man has come up with another trick! Well, here's a chance to seal it!